I'm the children's pastor at Paradise Church in Louisville, Ohio. And I'm really, really excited about tonight. You see, I've been thinking about how we can begin to have some Christmas cheer in a time when, we're not all going outside and doing things the way that we always have. I mean, for some of you, you're not going to school right now, or, school is kind of weird. Some of you have been doing school online, which is fine. Nothing's wrong with any of that. But what I do know is that for me, when weird things are going on, I like to have a little bit of fun. And you see, I thought that maybe over the next couple of weeks, I thought I'd start reading some Christmas stories with you. I mean, it is Christmas time after all. So, I don't know about you, but I know a good Christmas story always makes me feel better. So, we're going to start with one of my very favorites. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's a classic. Now, before you start, here's what I need you to do. I need you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go ahead and click that. And then go ahead and click the notification button so that you always get the notification when we have a new video that comes out. Because we're going to be doing this over the next few weeks, and I don't want you to miss any of them. Now, I know you're probably sitting there with mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, or whoever it is that you're sitting with. Why don't you snuggle in and get ready, because we're going to read a story. So, here we go. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, he did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, and they would rush right to their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Noise. Noise, noise, noise. He hated the noise. The noise. The noise, noise, noise. Oh. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, feast, feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they would do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville The tall and the small, they'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start to sing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more that he thought, I must stop the whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. But did that stop the old Grinch, children? What do you think? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. All the windows were dark, and snow filled the air. And all the Who's were dreaming sweet dreams without care. Then he loaded the bags in some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh. And he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where those Who's lay a snooze in their beds. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is the first stop, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace, flew. Where the little Who stockings all hung in a row, these stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room. And he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a sound like the coo a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small who. You see, Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been got by this tiny Who daughter who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie. And he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and a little bit of wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small even for a Who mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for all of their mouses. It was 15:15, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, and the trappings. Up, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Broken hills," was his Grinchiously humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a moment or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, 'Boo!'" "That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and it started to grow. But the sound, it wasn't so sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or another, it still came. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something that he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, why, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he, yes he, the Grinch, he carved the roast beast. It's one of my favorite stories. And I think one of the things that it teaches us is that Christmas, well, this time of the year, really isn't about presents. It's not about all the things that we get. Matter of fact, it's about being together. It's about loving each other and about being able to come together to celebrate and be thankful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be reading stories over the next few weeks. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our Facebook page by liking the Paradise Church page and also by liking the Paradise Kids Facebook page as well. That's where you're going to find a lot of info. But go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notifications button. We don't want you to miss anything. We're going to be doing this over the next few weeks. I'm really happy to be spending some time with all of you. So, until next time, don't be Grinchy like this guy.